The Anaheim Ducks are proud with the third pick of the 2021 draft. Happy and excited to draft from the Peterborough Pete's hockey team, Mason McTavish.
Welcome everyone to the 2021 NHL Draft presented by Honda. Draft day is finally here. We're inside Honda Center, down on the floor. Kent French alongside, of course, Hebert and Ahlers. Gentlemen, so good to see you guys fired up right now. I love this setting right now. Being here, select to see what's going on with the fans. You have the war room is behind us where the Ducks just made their third selection. Guy, what's it like being down here in the middle of all the action?
First of all, like you said, it's great just to have the fans back in this building. Yes. We're getting an insider's look at really what goes on in the war room right behind us with, see telephones going off, guys are making phone calls, do you move, what do you do with your picks? And just an exciting time, and it's an exciting time for the fans of the Ducks, seeing who they may be bringing into the fold.
Yeah, and I think right now the anticipation has been through the roof ever since, Johnny, we got that number 3 overall pick, and it looked like there was a little huddle going around Bob Murray there about 2 minutes before that pick was made.
Yeah, I think to the untrained eye, it always looks like that. But you talk to these guys, and they know what they're doing. They knew what they wanted to do. This is an exciting day for everyone. For the players, it's a celebration of years and years of anticipation, hopes and dreams being realized, being selected by NHL teams. For the teams, it's a day of hope. Everybody's better at the end of the day, and nobody can say they're not. For me, I've never been to an NHL draft. 22 years in this league. For me, it's fun just to be down here, like you said, looking at the actual war room right over our shoulder. It's an exciting day, it's a fun day, and it's a day, as I mentioned, of celebration and hope.
Yeah, it's so much fun to see these kids at home via Zoom, being able to spend some time with friends and family, because when they come to the draft, they're only there with their immediate family, so to speak. They got 15, 20 friends and family surrounding them, so certainly the celebration just a little bit bigger. Let's get right to it. I know that you guys are wondering, and by the time this is airing, you already know that we picked Mason McTavish with the number 3 overall pick. But, Johnny, you make a great point. The first 2 players that were picked, it was pretty much chalk. So after that, the Ducks are really going to set the tone for where this draft's going to go.
Yeah, no surprise with Power and Beniers from the University of Michigan going 1 and 2. But I think the Ducks kind of set the rest of the draft. McTavish is a guy you and I were talking before we went on. You looked at some of the earlier Central Scouting ratings. He was 17th among North American. The final Central Scouting ratings had him 2nd among skaters in North America. So he made a meteoric rise. This is a player that is a centerman. And obviously the Ducks are looking for centerman. Ryan Getzlaf, we know, is on the back 9 to say the least. And think Ryan Getzlaf when you think of Mason McTavish. I'm not comparing him as a player, but physically, 6'1", already over 200 pounds at age 18. We can expect, I would imagine, that he's only going to get bigger.
And Guibo had him on his list.
That's right.
You had the Ducks picking him.
Yeah, I got my list right here.
It was chalk for him.
It was chalk for him. Why did you think that Mason McTavish would go to the Ducks? Why do you think that would be a good fit?
Well, first, before we get into Mason a little bit deeper, I happen to have gotten drafted in the NHL, and this is my first draft in a building.
It is?
So I was at home waiting for my phone to ring. And
that's awesome.
So it is. So it's a very exciting time. All these guys are anxiously awaiting that call now via Zoom instead of the telephone.
Different kind of call.
Yeah, I think the telephone was still attached to the wall.
And now you got to shower and put a tie on.
For those of you that are under 30, look it up.
So back to Mason. I think this is a really smart pick. You want to build from that center position always. Johnny mentioned maybe some of the guys looking down the road. We're not getting rid of anybody right now, but need to fill that spot. You need development from down in San Diego. You need to kind of restock the pantry, and I think this is a great fit. A lot of people say that this is a Ryan O'Reilly type of forward, kind of a power forward, plays both ends of the ice. And if you can be compared to Ryan O'Reilly, I'll tell you what, he'd be a good fit here.
Yeah, you hear sniper, you hear heavy shot, you hear size like Johnny alluded to, so all signs point to this is definitely what the Anaheim Ducks needed. Now, when you look at the number 3 pick, when Brian Hayward and I did the lottery show and the Ducks did fall to number 3, we're like, well, hold on for a second. There's a lot of great players that have come out of that number 3 spot, one of them being Hall of Famer Scotty Niedermayer. So, Johnny, I mean, as we look at this, and Bob Murray even said it when we got that number 3 overall pick, you're going to get a guy that's going to help the franchise here.
Yeah, and you're going to get a top 6 forward if that's who you choose. talking with Martin Madden earlier this week, the assistant general manager of the Ducks, he felt this was a strong draft through the top 9 picks. He said a very good draft all the way through the midpoint of the second round. But if you've got a top 10 pick and you're looking at a forward, you're going to get for the future a top 6 forward. And one of the words or one of the terms used to describe Mason McTavish was skilled power center. And I think that fits where the Ducks have been for a long period of time under both Brian Burke and the tutelage of Bob Murray. So he fits the Ducks mold a little bit, if you will, there. And again, looking forward, you want a player, when you're going to pick this high in the draft, you want a player who's going to play high in your lineup as well.
Absolutely. Leon Draisaitl, Jonathan Toews, a couple others picked 3rd overall that certainly have played well in the NHL. Well, gentlemen, this has been a busy week, and we got free agency Johnny next week. We just had the expansion draft 2 days ago. Boy, the Seattle Kraken picking 2nd overall. They made a very good pick as well, as we already talked about. But it was interesting, Johnny, to see the way the Kraken went. There was a lot of big names left on that board, a lot of big salaries left on that board, and it looks like they want to control their own destiny here. Yeah,
there was a lot of opportunity, if you will, and if you're looking for the bang for your buck, the big names that you mentioned, I mean, a guy like Vladimir Tarasenko was out there and available, Carey Price out there and available. To me, I don't think the Kraken did any of the other 31 teams any favors. They didn't take any bad contracts off of anybody. And to me, the message was, listen, if we're going to get in trouble with our salary cap number, we're going to do it ourselves. We're not going to take anybody else's problems.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. I mean, they're looking at free agency. I think they're going to make some trades. A lot of names that were drafted in the expansion draft, by the time they drop the puck for their inaugural game, the lineup, I think, will look tremendously different. They're going to use these assets, Frenchie, that they got in this expansion draft. A lot of defensemen that they have, so they kind of stockpiled that.
Yeah, they did.
And I think they're going to be able to use those to upgrade, especially on the offense.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Guy, and I think, Johnny, you said the same thing, but this Kraken team's still going to look a lot different when they drop the puck in October, and there's a lot more deals to be made.
Yeah, and it started yesterday. There was a moratorium, if you will, during Wednesday's expansion draft. No trades could be made. As soon as that came off yesterday, we saw the shackles come off, not just the Kraken, who made a couple of other deals. I think it was Tyler Pitlick, who was a Kraken on paper for less than 24 hours before he got moved to Calgary. But nobody knows better than you, Guy, that there's an expansion draft, but there's time in between that expansion draft and that first training camp.
There certainly is, and that's the thing that's, you're so excited to be taken in the expansion draft. And you think about a whole new opportunity in your career, and whether you're a veteran guy trying to hold on, a young guy trying to break through, there's a lot of great opportunities for players. As you mentioned, all of a sudden you get picked and you don't really know what your destiny is going to be between now and training camp. So a lot of things happen, a lot of moving parts, and but the guys who eventually will be on that Kraken lineup are going to have a great opportunity to kind of make a stamp of their own on a brand new franchise, and something that none of us took lightly, being the inaugural Mighty Ducks.
Well, the Anaheim Ducks could go a couple different ways as far as protecting players. They protected 7 forwards, 3 D-men, and a goalie, and one of those guys that wasn't protected was Adam Henrique. Probably not a big surprise, but he was not taken. But Hayden Fleury, 25-year-old defenseman who was taken, Johnny, by the Kraken, certainly a relationship with Ron Francis, who drafted him with the Canes back in 2014, I believe it was. What do you think about that pick? And he's certainly a guy, he's cap friendly, he's young, big, talented. We know what he can do here.
Yeah, and in talking with Martin Madden yesterday, I asked him, I said, look, you're going to lose a player. And that's, fans are always going to maybe criticize the player you lose. At some point you can't please all of the people all the time. And I asked him, I said, was it a foregone conclusion once you submitted the list you thought you were going to lose Hayden Fleury? And he basically told me yes. As you mentioned, this is now the second time that Ron Francis has drafted Hayden Fleury. He likes the player. But what was fascinating to me was going over the different scenarios and all the different opportunities that these guys behind us at this war table, if you will, this war room, they went through and they put the scenarios in front. If we go 7-3-1, who's exposed? If we go 8-1, who's exposed? What would happen here and there? And it's mind-boggling to actually understand how much they go through and what they know is going to happen. And if we go a different direction, who's the player we might lose here? The risk management, the asset management, the value asset, and all the different scenarios they went through. So it was interesting to me that he said, listen, we knew when we put that list in, that we were probably going to lose Hayden Fleury.
Yeah, it was interesting too. And when that list came out, of course, you had people going, why do they protect this player and why not this player? And I'm like, just pump the brakes for a minute. There's a lot going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. If there's some other deals that are brewing or whatever it may be, I mean, you make a great point, Johnny. So you just don't know all that's put into it. And Gibo, these guys behind here, I mean, they're still working right now on the phones. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? Still a lot of draft left.
Well, there's a lot of draft. There's a lot of opportunity to upgrade your team through giving up a draft pick, whether it's second round or third round or some culmination of draft picks to get a player from another team. So it's going to be a sleepless night for these guys, I have a feeling. Until tomorrow when this is all said and done, they've had all their selections. Maybe make a trade, maybe not. And you don't want to freak out the fans and say there's an imminent trade because you just never know. Players in locker rooms are often the first surprised when there's a trade made because they never knew anything was coming down the pipe.
Yep, and it's going to be fun to watch too because Cale Fleury, 20-year-old brother of Hayden, was taken also in the expansion draft from the Canadiens. So those two guys are reunited. But Johnny, I think on our calendar, November the 11th, first time we're going to be in Seattle. The new Pacific Division is going to be a lot of fun, and there's going to be that rivalry, gents, when it comes to the Canucks and the Kraken. I think that's going to be fun to watch that brew over the years.
Well, it's a border war. You think Buffalo, Toronto, you can throw Detroit in there a little bit as well. But when you get two teams with that much geographic proximity, I know that they're gonna open the new building. The Canucks will be there, and there's a built-in rivalry. I think it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the Pacific Division teams take on rivalry aspects with the Kraken as well, because we only have to go back 4 years when an expansion team joined this division and took it by storm. And I don't think anybody took that lightly. Here's a second opportunity to welcome a team into the Pacific Division, maybe in a different way.
Yeah, and Gibo, you know as well as anyone, when you walk on the ice for the first time, the very first game in a franchise, what's it like for the players?
The roof is going to blow off of that building. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You just think about the football stadium and how loud they are. And if they bring any of that emotion and sound to that new arena, it's going to be incredible. I mean, to be able to play a first game, an inaugural game in an inaugural season for a brand new franchise, I was fortunate. And it's one of the highlights of my career to be able to say that I played the first game ever in the Honda Center, back then the Pond, of course.
Well, of course, we know that tonight is centered around that third overall pick by the Anaheim Ducks, who is Mason McTavish. So glad to have him as part of the franchise. And let's get a reaction from GM and Executive Vice President Bob Murray on his first pick.
Our thanks to Ducks General Manager and Executive Vice President Bob Murray joining us here on day one of the 2021 NHL Draft. Mason McTavish, the number 3 pick in the draft, taken by the Ducks moments ago. Bob, why Mason McTavish?
Well, we got to see him a bunch this year. We love his style of play. He's obviously, he can shoot the puck. He's good around the net. He's back to the way we want to play. We used to play where he's good in the offensive zone. He goes in. He's going to bring people to the fight because he goes in and he competes. He's physical. And the biggest thing is with all of our younger guys and this puzzle we're putting together, this guy has leadership abilities. This guy with Team Canada, the under 18, he was one of the big leaders on the team. And we have that from great sources. Obviously, one of our new coaches was coaching that team. So we're really excited. It's just now you got Trevor and him down the middle, so we're building. He built through the middle, and then this really helps.
And you develop players after you draft them as well.
Yep.
When you look at developing a player, obviously center's a position that, the great ones don't grow on trees, so you want to have as many of them as you can. Here's an 18-year-old, though, Swiss-born Canadian citizen. Because of the circumstances of this last year, he was able to play
with the men.
Pro hockey in a second division in Switzerland. Does that give you a better outlook at a player at this young age in his development?
Let's put it this way: when he went over there, and we'd watch the tapes. That's all we did this year is watch tape. So you watch the video. It took him a few games, and then his last bunch of games, he was their leading scorer on the team. So this is a young man at that age that went and played with the men, and he put up numbers. And that shows he's ready to play with the men. He's already done it.
You mentioned going back to a way maybe that the Ducks used to play.
Yeah.
A big centerman kind of fits a mold of that's always been a Ducks mold, hasn't it?
Well, yeah, we've gotten a little bit away from our old identity. We've tried to we've added skilled players and this, but we've got to get back to having some heart in our game. We need heart in our game, and Mason brings that.
He's already over 200 pounds at age 18, but he's got offensive skills. Second leading scorer in the OHL a couple of years ago before COVID stopped their season. And then, of course, as you mentioned, he went over to Switzerland. Talk to me a little bit about his offensive attributes. What do you like? I mean, centerman, I think we often think about puck distributors, but I saw some video. It looks like he's got a nice shot.
He shoots it. He can shoot it in the back of the net, and he does like to shoot it. His other asset is like I said, is the forechecking ability. He gets in, he knocks people off pucks and creates that way, which is, again, more like how we use, we need that sort of change in our hockey team to get back to that, to getting the offensive zone time. And he does that well.
So this week was an interesting week. Obviously, draft week, I don't think you guys get much sleep, period. But you throw in an expansion draft a couple of days ahead of that. How, looking ahead at the rest of this draft, I mean, have the phones heated up a little bit? Do you see more activity, or is this going to be more of a straight draft as we go through the rest of the next 2 days?
As you said, the expansion draft was really tough. We agonized forever over going 4-4 or 7-3. We knew who we were going to lose in the defense if we went the way we did it. We were pretty sure Hayden was going to go. But the problem was, if we go 4-4, then we're exposing some forwards we didn't want. A lot of young forwards, and we just felt with the young defensemen we have coming, the Lacombes, the Thruns, the Moores in the system coming, we're deeper at defense than we are at forward. So it was a tough week that way. Now, with the trades that have happened today within the league, things are starting to move. Expansion draft is over. Teams have room to add people to their, they were afraid to add people before because they had no room for their expansion list. They couldn't add somebody. So things have started to move today, and the phones are heating up a little bit, and we're hoping to be a little bit active here in the next week or so.
So the market may be moving a little bit, because the feeling from 30,000 feet and a long ways away from where I was that prices were very high leading into that expansion draft.
They were high, and again, people didn't have room to take somebody.
Right.
But now you see Seth Jones go today. You see the Ristolainen go from Buffalo, the defenseman go. The market is starting to move again. Expansion is over, and here we go.
Finally, a look ahead to next week and unrestricted free agency. Do you expect it to be a busy time?
I don't know about that. I think a lot's gone already in that. I think if we do things, they'll be through trades. I think if we are looking at the situations that some have happened already with teams that have cap issues and doing something like that.
Johnny agrees stuff with Murph, and one of the things he ended with was free agency, and maybe that's not going to be the market for the Ducks this year. So that being said, he alluded to trades being the way to improve their team.
I think general managers prefer to make trades, and we've heard Bob Murray use the term hockey trades in the last few years, because so many deals these days are made because of numbers, cap situations. We got a flat cap going forward here, guys. We don't know how long that's going to be the case, but we know it will be the case for the next year to come. So day 2 of NHL drafts oftentimes can be active from a trade perspective, particularly early on when those higher picks, 2nd and 3rd round, are available to still be moved. Should be something to watch tomorrow.
All right, so they have 6 more picks, Skibo, rounds 2 through 6. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think they're going to kind of go this way with trying to fill middle of the ice, look for some more centers to be able to add to their system. I think defense is always a premium. Guys who can skate, move the puck. If you've got some size, that's always good. But I think that the Ducks are trying to get that offensive defenseman somewhere in the draft, even if it's a project, to be able to build over the next couple of years. And I'd like to say that goaltending is in good hands, certainly with John Gibson. But you've got some guys in the minors along, but you never know when there's a goaltender late in the round that's sticking around that they didn't expect. So that's the beauty of the draft, is you never know what's going to be available when it's your turn.
It's going to be a lot of fun to watch, and we're going to have all the coverage for you on day 2, but we welcome Mason McTavish to the Anaheim Ducks, the 3rd overall pick on day 1. Tomorrow, Steve Kerr will be here, along with John Ahlers and, of course, Guy Hebert. Until then, have a great night. We'll see you on day 2.